Welcome back to MotionPic Recap. Today we're going to recap a movie titled The Intern. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Somewhere in Brooklyn, an old man called Ben is living a lonely life, going to yoga-like sessions and going to funerals seemingly every month. Similar to how he went to weddings when he was 30. One day he sees a note about a senior intern position in a company that he finds interesting, and he meets a woman who is very interested in him. He wants to change his boring life, and so decides to send in an application for the internship, recording himself saying he's been living in Brooklyn all his life, that he is a loyal company man, but that he might need to practice using tech. Next we see an online fashion business located in some fairly old building in Brooklyn, and it's run by a woman called Jules. She is talking to an unsatisfied customer, saying she will refund her, after which her secretary called Becky comes and says she has a meeting soon. Moving through the office, she sees people just stacking paper and stuff on tables, creating a mess which she is irritated about. Suddenly Ben appears and asks about the internship, being told by the receptionist to sit down and wait. And meanwhile Jules talks to a designer in a meeting. She seems like she is managing almost every aspect of the business, asking and giving advice on virtually every bit and part of the company, and how things are going for different employees. Ben is informed he will do a couple interviews to see where he best fit into the company, and several people ask about his expertise, and he explains he worked 20 years creating phone books. One guy asks him where he sees himself in 10 years, but scratches that question, remarking he is overqualified for the position, which is very good. Jules is informed one senior guy will start working with her tomorrow, and she remarks she had totally forgot, asking if she must take someone on since she is so stressed. And he says it's in the contract so she must. Ben is glad he is back in action, and the next day, he and 3 others are guided through the facility. The guy called Jason tells the story of how Jules started the company from her own kitchen table, only 18 months ago. They are shown to their desks, and are told they can get themselves comfortable. And Ben start picking out an old phone and some nice leather cases. Jules forgot how to turn on his desktop and get some help, and then reads in his email that he will be working directly with the found Jules. Ben is excited to start working again. But as he reads another email he sees that he will meet with Jules first in 6 hours, and only for 5 minutes before Jules has another meeting. His neighbor, who is also an intern, goes to the merchandise section, but he has nothing to do. And 6 hours later he goes to talk to Jules' secretary, who is very stressed and has a lot to do. He is advised to remember to blink, because Jules hates people who doesn't. And then they start the meeting introducing each other. But then Jules says she doesn't have a lot for him to do. She says she is not very fun to work with, and asks if he wants to be transferred to some other task, which he says he don't want, and adds he can get along with anyone, even her. He asks if he should check in on her a couple times a day, but she says she will call on him if she needs him. After which they end the meeting, and he says he looks forward to get to know her. At home he practices lines to be more approachable, and less scary to ask for help from. And the next day people work hard all around him, while he has nothing to do. He himself walks around starting to learn different things from different employees, and sees Jules has a chauffeur, and even though people go home, he is determined to stay until Jules goes home if she needs him. The next day he is ready again, and seeing people having too much to do, he jumps in and helps them where he can, also sharing some ideas with the other intern, called Davis, in his tasks. Jason has dated Becky, who is mad at him since he accidentally slept with her roommate, and he asks for Ben's advice to restore their relationship, since he got no reply after sending like 1 billion texts. Ben and Davis remark that can be a hard one to restore, but Ben says he should be more sincere and go talk to her in person instead. Express how much she means to him if it is genuine. Jules complains over people just stacking paperwork in the office, and on the other side of the room, Ben gets an email from Becky, getting tasked to help Jules get her jacket cleaned, that she spilled something on. She is having a meeting with a guy called Cameron, who says they need to bring in help from the outside, and replace her with a CEO having experience, since they can pick up with their own speed of growth. She gets tears in her eyes, thinking about not being able to keep the business hers, but having to run every idea by someone who is technically her boss, and Ben overhears it, Becky asks if he heard anything interesting going on since he was in there a long time. But he says he couldn't hear a thing, calling Becky boss as he goes, making her a bit happy. Ben's office neighbor asks him about his briefcase, being in love with it. And Ben says it's a 1973 executive classic, but that they don't make it anymore, and the next that Jules is met by a surprise. Somebody cleaned away the stack of paper, and she is happy. And they explain Ben came in and did it very early that morning. And everyone start applauding, and Jules remark, "It's the best thing that has happened all week." Suddenly a woman called Fiona comes up, saying she will give him a reward for what he did, giving him a massage, and they start talking. His friends help him with a newspaper, remarking he isn't as old as they, though he was when Fiona has left, laughing about. Later Ben sees Jules' driver called Mike drinking, and walks out to confront him, telling him that he better say to Jules that he can't drive today, and so Ben should do it instead, or Ben himself will tell her. Mike tells Jules he can't drive her, and that Ben will cover for him, but she says Becky can drive her, but since Becky has so much to do, Ben drives her anyway. She talks with her mother in the car, who tells her women under 40 who sleeps less than 7 hours a night risk gaining 38% in weight. After which she talks to Cameron about a potential CEO they can hire. Jules says he can drive back, and that Becky can come get her in an hour. But Ben says he will stay there and wait for her, comforting her a bit before going into a meeting she is a bit nervous about. 1 hour later, Ben is there waiting for her, and he has bought chicken soup for her, which she becomes very glad, for since she is very hungry. On the meeting she met the potential CEO to hire, but she remarks he didn't blink, which she doesn't stand, so he wasn't an alternative. She Ben for everything, waving him off as she comes. How to her husband called Matt, and her daughter Paige. She asks about Paige's day, and she and Matt explain they have been doing Play-Doh cakes. Matt asks about her day and she talks a little about it. And as Ben comes home he listens to people, having tried to reach him over the phone, and they all wonder where he is since they haven't seen him. Ben then calls Fiona spontaneously, and she replies, she is glad he called. Over at Jules' house, she has fallen asleep of tiredness, and later that night she continues working. Matt tells her a bit about Paige while being very tired, and as she stops working she wants to cuddle a bit, but Matt says he is too tired for that now, and they go to sleep. Early the next morning Becky calls Ben saying her driver Mike is missing, and asks if he can pick her up, which he gladly does. And when arriving Matt invites him for coffee. Ben meets Paige, and Paige remarks, it is hysterical, he is an intern, even though she doesn't know what it is, and Ben remarks, she is right, it is hysterical. Jules is a bit surprised seeing Ben is there, having been on the phone in an adjacent room. Matt asks if she can drive Paige to a school comrade's after party later that week, but she says she can't being so stressed over work, and the two leave bringing Paige with them to school. Ben remarks in the car that Matt seems great, and Jules thank him for that comment, saying as her business started growing fast last year, he left his work to be with Paige, so that Paige wouldn't be too much alone. For some reason Jules emails Becky asking to transfer Ben to some other department, after which she leaves Paige, and promises some women to bring guacamole to the after party. Later that week, she hugs Paige goodbye, and they continue to her work. Becky wonders why she wants Ben transferred, and Jules write back he is too observant. After which she says he took a wrong turn, and Ben tells her to trust him to drive. And the two arrive there faster than normal, admitting he is good. Later that day, Ben has agreed to meet Lorraine, who gives employees massage and relaxation during their stressful workdays. Almost before Ben has had time to sit down, she asks when he can meet next time, and they schedule for the day after tomorrow. And she begins giving him a massage. They talk about Jules' stressful situation, and in the middle of it all, Davis enters, and immediately starts saying he is sorry he's interrupting, thinking something else is going on. Next the guy called Lewis says he's going to deliver a big order to a guy called Jay-Z, thinking it's the rapper, and want to look good when delivering, asking Ben for advice. And Ben says he should dress to impress, and put on a shirt. That evening Jules is still at work and so is Ben, and seeing him, she comes over with food and says she hates to eat alone. They talk about her struggle about finding a good experienced CEO to help in the company growth. And later Ben says he worked on this exact floor for 40 years. When they were printing phone books here. He adds he remembers the day the big trees outside were planted, and struggling starting a Facebook page. Jules helps him get his profile up and running. They talk a bit, and Jules expresses she is glad to have an adult conversation with an adult man, asking if it is okay if she continues working for an hour more. And he says it's okay. Later, Ben has driven her home, and Jules is snoring loudly in the back seat. And as she wakes up, she says she has never fallen asleep in a car before. She says her parents were sleep researchers and have told her she is a classic loud sleeper, saying she is sorry if she snored, after which she goes to bed. The next day she is glad to see Ben is already there, but is stumped seeing a woman in the driver's seat. Asking where Ben is, and the woman replies he was transferred. The woman can't drive and is actually dangerous to be in the driver's seat, and so Jules has to drive. And when she tries to find Ben later, she walks up and says she is so sorry she transferred him. Ben says he is sorry if he stepped over some line, and she stresses he did nothing wrong, that it was she herself that was wrong. She asks him politely to come back and work with her, because he was so helpful, and he agrees. And when back at work, Jules asks Becky, who is already stressed, to help Ben and do various other things. The stress overwhelms her and she starts to cry, and Jason walks up, giving her a hug to comfort her, and she vents her frustration, saying she works all day except for the 5 hours she sleeps, and is only considered a secretary despite having a business degree. Ben says he can help her, adding he heard women sleeping less than 7 hours a night gain 38% more weight than women who sleep more than 7 hours, scaring her into accepting his help. Next, Ben is helping Becky, and having analyzed purchasing patterns, he has discovered a customer group they are not targeting that is actually spending more on their products than others. Having learnt and understood, he is an old businessman. She now trusts his ability and asks him to help her come up with a plan to expand their business in that area. Davis says he has been thrown out of his apartment and has to move to his cousin in Philadelphia, and Ben saves his ass by letting him live at his place until he gets another apartment, and then gives a life lesson to Davis about handkerchiefs. He says real gentlemen carry handkerchiefs to lend them to women since women cry a lot. And the next day Ben eats breakfast with Paige. Jules says she might have found a CEO that seems good, but has to go to San Francisco to have a meeting with him, asking Matt if he can come with. But he says he can't. Needing someone to join her, Ben says he can travel with her. In the car, she speaks with her mother, tries to write messages, and talks with the warehouse that has problems with bugs. She writes a message to Matt about her thoughts, about her own mom being so annoying, but accidentally sends it to her mother instead. She notices she sent it wrongly, and explains to people she sent a very important email to the wrong person who is at work, and won't see it until the person comes home in 5 hours, and asks if anyone has any idea to delete it. Since people say it is virtually impossible to hack into a server, but Ben has the idea of going there and just stealing the computer. Next, Ben and his companions are driving to Jules' mother's home. They arrive, trying to find a key under a flower pot, and then enters the home. Hearing there is a home alarm activated, so Ben calls Jules. She says the alarm must be a fake to scare off burglars, and they remark it is definitely working, after which they just ignore the alarm counting down and start looking for the computer. They find 2 computers, and suddenly the home alarm goes off, and they become panicked, but manages to delete the email. The 3 then run as fast as they can to the car, hearing sirens closing in. But Jason is listening to loud music, and doesn't see them at first, having locked the car. That evening, Jules has invited them to a bar as a reward for having helped her. She accidentally calls them boys when thanking them, saying she is sorry for that, remarking women went from being called girls to women, and that men went from being called men to boys. She says that is a problem in the big picture, explaining her theory of girls today being told, "You go girl," being taught like they are girl bosses, and men being rewarded for being lazy gamers. She notes Ben here is a real man, and not only that but a gentleman, and Davis remarks he is Ben's mentee. Having received a nice tie from Ben, she hasn't been drinking since college, and Ben has to help her home. The next day there is a funeral, and Ben has taken Fiona with him as a date, and the woman from the beginning of the movie is jealous seeing he's got another woman. Fiona remarks that was fun even though some were crying, and they continue their date a bit. The next workday, Matt is feeling bad. And Jules can't be with Paige on the school after party, and so Ben says he can take her. Ben walks up to the other mothers to talk and they ask if he's Paige's dad, but he says he just works with Jules and helps her out, and they remark Jules is quite tough to be around, and Ben says she is. He adds that she is a badass, and that they must be proud having a woman like her out there in business, and the tech industry being so successful. Paige says she isn't feeling any good, and the two leave, playing a game in the car while driving home. But as they are just arriving to the house, Ben sees Matt walking out into a car, where another woman kisses him. Wanting not for Paige to worry, he goes for a longer drive instead of going into the house where she will see her father is gone, and comes back sometime later when Matt has returned home. Ben remarks he seems to feel better, and Matt says he does, asking Ben how it is going for Jules, and Ben responds, she is trying to do what is right for everybody, not just for the people in the company but also him. Matt says he and Paige feel lonely at home, seeing Jules so little, and that maybe a CEO might help her be at home more, and Ben just replies she deserves to be happy, asking Matt if a CEO will be enough to achieve that. Later, Jules thanks him for helping Paige, sharing a cake, and suddenly several of them ask Ben if he is okay, since he doesn't seem so good. Jules tells him to stay if he doesn't feel good and she will go to San Francisco alone, but Ben insists on going with her. On the plane, Ben asks Jules if they can have a little fun, while she can't use the internet instead of working, and the two start having fun conversations. She is nervous about meeting the CEO that might become her boss. And later, while laying in her hotel bed that evening working, the fire alarm goes off. Jules asks if he travels with his own bathrobe, and he says of course he does. She invites him to her room to talk, and she asks politely if he can tell her a little about her wife, and Ben says she was fantastic. He explains they met when they were 20 years old, and love each other till the day she left this earth. Suddenly she just exclaims her husband Matt is cheating on her, and Ben says he knows, which she is surprised about, asking when he knew, and he said he saw Matt yesterday with a woman. Jules says she has known for several weeks now, remarking that she knows he is the one doing wrong, but that she must also be the cause, since she is almost never at home. She says she hopes he still loves her, having searched and seen many couples that have cheated have been able to get past it, and stay together lovingly. Jules also thinks about Paige, and don't want to let her down, and don't know what will happen if they separate, and then she is gone. All day long and Paige is left alone. Ben says that if the worst should happen, they are allowed to stay at his house, saying he's sorry he doesn't have a handkerchief right now, and they pause the talk by watching some TV. The movie is about love and Ben sheds a tear, thinking about all this. And then the next day he gets a shave, before picking up Jules, who is meeting the CEO. Ben asks how the CEO was, and she says she was very impressed about him, that he was polite, respectful, and said all the right thing. Jules says she told him that the job was his, if he wanted it, and the two fly back to New York. Matt asks how it went, and Jules says the CEO she met was good, and gave him the job. After which they take a drink together, and Jules says she hopes they can get back to where they were 18 months ago. Getting no answer back. Both feel like shit, and are not talking. A day or two later she goes to Ben, and meets Jason in a suit at the door, who says he's living there with Ben until he finds his own place. Next she meets Fiona, when knocking on the door, seeing Fiona walking up kissing him on the cheek, and she leaves so they can talk. Ben says he thought about the situation, explaining he doesn't think it's a good idea for her to give up this exciting thing she has going for her, with the company, to go back and hope her cheating husband will start love her again. She says came partly to want to hear that, but also came to say she regards him as her best friend. Ben asks if she is ready for work, and the two go, and next Becky meets them, remarking a happy customer sent a wedding photo of her and her bridesmaids wearing some of their dresses. She has gotten some flowers from Matt, and Matt has come by to tell her not to leave her job for him, saying he wants her to be happy. He explains it's all over, saying he is sorry, and that he along the way, though he was losing her, but that he eventually understood it was actually him that got lost. He says he won't let her give this all up for him, and says he loves her, and will do things so much better if she lets him, asking for her forgiveness, and she replies it would be great if he carried handkerchiefs from now on. Becky says Ben took the day off, and Jules asks Fiona if she knows where he is, and she knows where. And next, we see him at his yoga-styled sessions. Jules joins in saying she has something to tell him, and Ben says she may as soon as their peaceful session is over. The end. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this, and hit the like button to help us out. Until next time, take care.